Well, hello everyone, Texie88 here, and welcome to another review. And now I'm taking a look at the Spectrum version of the game The Living Daylights, released by Domark. And as you probably guessed, it's based on the 1987 James Bond film of the same name, the first of the two films that starred Timothy Dalton, who took over from Roger Moore, who retired a couple of years earlier. Now, it's worth pointing out that at the time there had only been one other video game based on James Bond for the Spectrum, and that was A View to a Kill, which was largely considered to be utterly poor. So hopefully that's not too big of a raised bar for The Living Daylights. So, so according to the instructions, I begin my adventure with Bond testing his defences. And it's obviously based on the training exercise that comes before the credits in the films. So without further ado, let's get this game going. So it looks like the game came out in 1987, just like the film did. That doesn't sound like a-ha's theme tune. Not that's necessarily a bad thing, it just would have been nice if they could have had a rendition of a-ha's theme tune to the film, because that's a pretty cool theme tune. Left, right, up, down, fire. I can't use space because because I believe that's used for something else. It might not be, but I get because the default is QAOPM. Something tells me that space can't be used, so I'm not risking it. So, as you can see in the bottom left corner, I'm armed with a paint gun, and that's Bond on the screen. And the way it works is that if the cursor's off the right hand side of the screen, then Bond runs forwards, and while he's running, you can press up to jump and down to do a roly poly or somersault. Sorry, roly poly is a bit childish, isn't it? God, I've got my energy's nearly drained already. One thing that doesn't help is that because of the Spectrum's attribute problem, it's while seeing people like that guy there isn't such a problem, or him, for instance, and him. When they're up against the rocky backgrounds, they're nigh on impossible to see. So it's good that they managed. Not in some ways, it's good that they didn't use colour on those people, because otherwise the clash against the rocky outcropping would have been horrendous. Nice parallax scrolling in the foreground there. Oh God! How are you supposed to shoot them when you can't even see them half the time? So it seems like the best option is to just leg it through the whole stage until it doesn't scroll anymore. But even then, my energy's getting drained. Well, I can't really shoot them to great effect because I'm only armed with a paint gun, because this is a training exercise. So somehow I managed to get the Walther PPK, but I'm not absolutely sure how. So it's sort of like a cross between a run and gun game and something like Operation Wolf. Oh, for goodness sake! Right, so it seems like if you shoot the bottom of the screen, you switch from the paint gun to the Walther PPK. So now I'm armed with the real deal. But I can still only just see the guys when they're... Oh, God! Right. I'm shooting on the bottom of the screen to arm myself with the Walther PPK straight away. How are you supposed to actually avoid getting shot? It just seems to be completely random. Well, I'm clearly hitting him, and why won't they die? And of course, if you, oh my goodness me. So it seems like the Walther PPK is about as much use as a chocolate fire guard unless you're right at the very end of the screen. Figure that out if you can, sense-wise, because I sure can't. How are they hitting me? And how do you actually avoid getting hit in this game? Right, Walther PPK. See, I can only just see that guy that I just shot there. Oh, bloody hell. Let's give that another whirl. It's a shame because Bond himself is really well animated. It doesn't actually bother me too much. It doesn't look a huge amount like Timothy Dalton. I mean, that could also be deliberate. It could also be that they couldn't get permission to use his likeness. Or it could just be because getting something that looked like him, even with that kind of permission, would have been a bit of a big ask in... See, look, you just get peppered before you get the chance to do anything. It just seems to be completely random. It also makes no sense that they're harming you when they're supposedly using paint. Yet, if you try and shoot them before its screens actually stop scrolling, it does absolutely nothing to them whatsoever. What? Move! It just suddenly paused for no apparent reason. Right, now I've got to shoot the ground again, switch to the Walther PPK, which also means I'm vulnerable. Couldn't they have just made it so I pressed another button to switch guns? Having to shoot the foreground to switch guns not only makes no sense, but it leaves you vulnerable because while you're doing that, you're not shooting at the people who are trying to pepper you with gunfire. Such a shame, because if this was a bit fairer, then there's actually a pretty decent kind of game hiding in there somewhere. Oh, they're just briefly popping out. Oh my goodness. Oh, give over. How's I meant to get through? And another thing is, because you don't get time to react. I mean, that kind of thing worked with Operation Wolf because it actually worked that they reduced the width of the playing area and had that display of damage and ammo on the right. But when it's got the full width of the screen like this, you've got... Nope, don't want the paint. Oh, God. When you've got the full width of the screen, you just don't get time to react to when a man suddenly appears before he's absolutely peppered you, because you can't get the cursor, you can't get the crosshair to him in time to shoot him. Get up! I don't like the way that Bond sort of pauses sometimes when you roll and not others. Oh my God. I can't get anywhere in this. This game is just ridiculously unfair. I mean, what I was saying about A View to a Kill, I'm afraid of that one, I have to admit, because it's supposedly even worse than this. I mean, look, how am I meant to avoid any of this? And it's very easy to press the fire button twice. See, look, he ducked down before I had a chance to get him. Okay, I'm not that keen on the Living Daylights, as you can probably tell. Film I'm quite happy with, but this, no. Graphics. Well, initially they look impressive, and Bond himself is really well animated. His running animation's smooth, and it's smooth when he jumps and when he does that forward roll. And there's some nice parallax scrolling in the foreground as well. Those trees that were close to the front of the view, and the scrolling itself smooth. And initially the backgrounds look good, but when I get to gameplay, I'm going to point out something about those same backgrounds that make it a bit of a problem. Sound. Well, at least there is sound. I mean, it's a Spectrum title. I would have preferred it if there could perhaps have been an 128K version that took advantage of the improved sound chip, so then there might have been able to be music in game. But as far as I can make out, there was never a specific 128K version. No, this definitely isn't the Living Daylights song playing here. It's still a pretty good tune, especially for a 48K Spectrum. It's just, I just would have preferred it if they could have got additional permission to put the Living Daylights, as in the song by a-ha, in the game somehow. I guess that would have pushed the price up too much, or maybe any or all of the band said no. But you just get to the little chime here and there, as well as the sound effects whenever a gun is fired. Apart from that, there's not really anything, but it doesn't really need anything else. So I'm not going to be mean to a Spectrum game, especially not a 48K one, for having limited sound when there's so many 48K Spectrum games that have no sound at all. So at least it's not a totally empty experience. However, gameplay, Bond controls well enough. However, the fact, whereas when there's a plain sky in the background, the men who are shooting at you are very easy to see. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said when you reach the far right of that particular part, and they're black against a black background, and you can barely see them at all. And there's a problem that even if you can somehow see them, quite often your crosshair is so far away from them. By the time you've actually got to them, they've either killed you, or they've already popped back behind cover, and so you can't get to them at all. And once you've gone over to the far right of the screen, you can't actually go left. You can only move the crosshair left, so you're pinned to the spot in completely open space and can't take cover. The cover system would have been nicer, considering that the enemies can take cover. So yeah, I noticed they managed to sneak a fair bit of colour in places where the clash was minimal, but they really needed to find some other way around the people that were against the rocky backdrop towards the far right of the screen in particular, when it's almost all rocky cliff top backdrop. They should have made the graphics there a little bit simpler. It may not have looked as impressive in screenshots, but at least you'd be able to see the men who are trying to kill you, which is far more important. Gameplay over graphics, always. So yeah, I think I'm going to give the Living Daylights on the Spectrum 5 out of 10. It has promise, but and and the actual control of Bond is okay, and it looks quite nice, but the gameplay and the fact that you can barely that it suffers from the Spectrum monochrome causing things to be hard to see lets the game down somewhat. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that review. Catch you on another one soon. Techsy88 out.